Alright guys, last thing we need to do for our tank project is to do the auto mode. Just to highlight two things that I've changed in my program. If you watch the previous video on the indicator lights, at 50% the indicator light right here for 50% was coming on a little bit too early. And I wasn't sure why that was, and I took a closer look, and what I had done was I had put 4.475. So if we take, let's see, 0.4475 and we multiply that by 300, that's 134.25. So way down at 134, 135, that's when my indicator light was turning on. So I changed that. It must have been on cruise control and looking at that value right there. So I changed this to 4.975, and now this is a tighter range for that light to be on at my 50%. The other thing that was missing was on my reset mode. So if I go over here and go to my main OB1, and just scroll down to my reset, I had neglected to put in a reset light. So all I said was, all right, if I'm not in the reset mode, then illuminate that push button light. So this light right here is on all the time until I hit that push button for the reset mode. And during the, 3 seconds that the reset timer is going off, it will take out this light here. So if I press this guy, takes it out for 3 seconds during that reset mode. And then when the reset's done, it illuminates back up again. I have, so far, I have my main OB1, I have my indicator lights, and I have my manual fill and drain. So last one I'm going to do is an auto fill and drain, meaning that by pressing this push button, by selecting this selector switch to auto mode and being in the run mode, then I'll be able to hit each of these push buttons, and in hitting each of these push buttons, it will bring me to either 0, 25, 50, 75, or 100, depending on whether I have enabled either the fill mode or the drain mode. Okay, so let's go into our TA portal here. Let's maximize this here, and let's go offline now, so we can get out of our monitoring mode. And let's go and let's add a new program block here. Yes. Okay, so we're going to add in a new block one more time. Again, a better design is the subroutines, but you guys can play around with that. I'll just show each individual organizational block. So I want an organizational block, and I have forgotten on 2 or 3 videos now to name this. So I'm going to name this guy my auto, fill, and drain. Okay, we're keeping this in the automatic mode. We'll hit OK. Okay, so we'll start off with our first network here. I'm going to call this one fill or drain mode. So in looking at this selector switch here, I can put this into auto mode, right? But then I need to either hit fill or drain to put myself into either the fill mode or the drain mode, because I have each of these individual push buttons to bring me to the different levels, but I need to know whether I'm filling the tank or whether I'm draining the tank there. So we need to make use of these guys right here, and in pressing each of these guys, they're going to energize a memory bit, and that memory bit will correspond to either the fill mode or to the drain mode. Okay, so there's a number of things that I'd like to happen in order to be in either the fill or the drain mode. So the first thing I want to make sure is that I'm in the system run. So I've hit that start push button and I've started my system run. The next thing I want to make sure of is that I have selected that selector switch above to the auto mode. And you guys may find that this is a little bit redundant, but I want to make sure that I haven't pressed my drain push button, that I have pressed my fill push button, that I'm not in the drain mode, and finally that is going to energize my output here. Okay, so let's build up each of these different tags here. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put another rung right here, and then I'm just going to copy and paste everything here because this will be identical for the drain mode. So this will be my holding contact here. Bring this bad boy up until we see green. Okay, and then when I'm in that mode, I want to have a light illuminate. So in parallel there, I'm going to have another output. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to select everything. So let's see if I can select everything here. There we go. So let's go to edit, and let's copy. Beauty. Let's put in one more rung here. Okay, and then selecting this point right here, we'll hit edit and then paste. Nice. Okay, so we're going to have identical rungs here. So the first one I want to see is, am I in the system run? Okay, next thing I want to see is, have I hit the auto selector switch? Okay, so in hitting the auto selector switch, I'll be in auto mode there. Okay, and let's see if I haven't hit my drain push button. Okay, I have pressed my fill push button. Okay, I'm not in the drain mode, which I haven't set up yet, so I'm going to leave that one out. Okay, and that guy is going to turn on a memory bit. So %m, and what do I have? 0.5. So I'm up to 0.4, so I'm going to do 0.5 next. Okay, I'm going to right click on this guy and rename this guy. And this one here is going to be my autofill. Beautiful. Whereas down here, I'm going to label this guy %m 0.6 now. Okay, right clicking on this guy and renaming this guy. And this guy is going to be my auto drain mode. Beautiful. Now I've set up that memory bit, so I can now tag this. Beautiful. I need a holding contact here for my fill mode, so when I press this fill push button, that I will turn on that memory bit there, and I'll provide another path of logic to keep that bad boy on. Okay. And I want a light to turn on to say that I'm in the fill mode there. So that light is %Q. And let's see, I am in the autofill, right? So that one is Q0.6. Beautiful. Okay, same instructions down here. So I've just chosen to, instead of, because these two are going to be the same, right? So instead of branching off here, I've just created another rung below here with identical instructions. So as long as I'm in system run, and as long as I am in the auto mode, and I have not pressed the fill push button, okay, I have pressed the drain push button. Where's that guy? Right here. Okay, then I want to turn on my memory bit corresponding to my auto drain mode. This will keep that auto drain mode on. Okay, and I want to make sure, again, kind of like that electrical interlock here, that there's no way that either one of those guys can be on at the same time. Beautiful. And let's have a light that turns on. So %Q, and my drain light is this guy right there. Beautiful. Sweet. Okay, let's download that and see how that works now. Okay, so I've downloaded that. I'm now in my monitoring mode now. So in order to stop this light from flashing, so as soon as I start up my animation, I have to reset that portion of the program. I need to hit this start button. That start button will turn on my system run. So let's put this into manual, just so this isn't true yet. So this is not true yet, so we need these guys to be true. So I'm going to hit the start push button, put myself into system run. Next thing I need to do is I need to put it into auto mode, because you can see here that neither the fill nor the drain is working. I'm in manual mode, so you can see that that is just manually filling and manually draining the tank. Okay, so I want to put it into auto mode now. Okay, so for this guy, you can see that it goes back and forth now. So by hitting the fill, I've now energized my auto fill mode. The light that corresponds to that is turning on, and this is providing me with that logic continuity so that when I let go of the fill push button, that this memory bit keeps itself on. Beautiful. I wanted to just be able to go back and forth between the fill and the drain without hitting any stop push button. So I've done that by putting in, again, these guys right here. So these two instructions seem redundant, but they provide me with the push button interlocking so that I don't have to hit the stop button. As soon as I hit the opposing push button right here, it kicks out that logic continuity. So when I hit the drain, this will not be true, and that kicks out my fill mode. So now I can go back and forth between my fill and my drain mode. So try this out to begin with before we move into the portion where we use the other instructions to get to 0, 25, 50, 75, and 100. And you'll see that by placing these guys in there, then you'll be able to go back and forth between the two different modes now. So, and again, you may want to make it even more complicated. You may want to go into separate subroutines for either the fill or the drain here. Beautiful. So now we can go back and forth between our fill and our drain mode, and we can make use of this memory bit in subsequent portions of our program. Okay, so now we've got our fill and our drain mode. So now we know we've got to make use of each of these different push buttons below now. So let's go back into our TA portal now. Let's go off of monitoring mode. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to, here, let's make this bigger so we can see what we're doing. We're going to do our next network down here, and this is going to be our autofill settings. Okay, so in order to fill the tank, I need to be in my autofill mode, which is %m0.5. Here, I made this smaller so that we could see this with the other program going. So I need to make use of that guy right there. So as long as I'm in the autofill mode, okay, and that guy is %m0.5. Beautiful. And I've hit the 25% push button. So again, on the TA port, sorry, the factory IO, that would be this push button right here. So it's an illuminated push button. So when I press this guy, I want to go right to 25% in the tank. And so I need to make use of that input. So when I press that button and I send 24 volts to my PLC, this becomes a 1. This instruction is looking for a 1. And so that will be true. And that input there is % input, and it's 1.1, I believe. Yeah. Okay, so there's my 25% push button. And when I hit that guy, I want to move a value. So I'm going to open up this guy up for my instructions. I'm coming down here to move operations. I'm grabbing my move value and dragging it over till I see green. Okay, I want to move a value of 10. So I have, if you haven't seen the previous videos, on this tank right here, I have 2 valves. I have a fill valve and I have a drain valve, and each of these are 0 to 10 volt proportional valves, right? So it goes from 0 to 10 volts. Okay. And on the release or the discharge valve or the drain valve, I have a 0 to 10 volt signal, and that opens up this valve fully if I send it 10 volts. So in order to fill the tank, I want to send 10 volts and open that guy wide open and have as much water coming in as possible. Okay, let me release these forces here. So I need to send a value of 10, and I'm going to send that guy to my tank fill valve, and that is %QD, and it's 100 for my fill valve. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I'm in the autofill mode, which I've set up over here. I'm hitting that 25% push button, so it won't work until I'm in the autofill mode. And then I'm setting a value of 10 volts to that 0 to 10 proportional valve. Okay, I'm also going to send, so I'm going to put a rung in right here if I can. There we go. I'm also going to move a value, so I'm going to hopefully just copy this guy and paste this guy in. Okay, so I have going to send a value of 2.2 to a memory bit here. So I'm going to call this guy %MD100. Okay, I have not set that up yet. It's going to be a memory bit there, and I'm going to call this guy my fill level. And you'll see how this comes in a few seconds. Okay, so I need to go to 25%. 25% of a 0 to 10 volt signal is going to be 2.5. So you would think that I put in 2.5 here for my fill level. But remember that as it's filling, that drain valve doesn't shut right away. It takes like, half a second to shut. So the water will still be flowing. So if I set this as my fill valve or my fill level, then when it sees that value, it will stop the signal going to my fill valve, which will stop the water filling the tank. And then that extra water that was draining down from the valve to the top of the water there will hopefully bring me up to a 25% level. Hopefully that will make sense in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'll pause here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste each of these guys for my 50%, my 75, and my 100, and I'll bring it back in 2 seconds. Okay, so I've now copied and pasted that same instruction here. So we have the autofill, and I have my 25% push button, my 50% push button, 75, and 100% push button. So each of those guys, as soon as I hit each of those push buttons, are sending 10 volts to my fill valve, which will fully open up the fill valve and start to fill the tank. This value right here, this 2.2, I'm moving this to my %MD 100, which is I'm calling my fill level. Now, the reason for that is that, again, it's going to keep filling the tank, and as that water keeps coming down, when I then shut off the valve, a little bit of water will still come from the top of the tank there. So I'm going to stop it at 2.2 in the hopes that at 2.5 that it'll actually settle out. Okay, so down below, and I've done that the same all the way across. Like this is supposed to be at 5 volts, right? But at 4.7, I'm then sending that value to my fill level. Here I have 7.2 rather than 7.5, and here I have 9.9 rather than 10. So that value right there is going to here, to my last instruction here. So as long as I'm in the autofill mode, then I have an instruction here, which is a comparator instruction, and you'll notice that it's not an equals value. So this brings up the question, have I been using the right value here for all of my instructions? Like, why have I been using ID 104 rather than IW 104? Right? So that goes back to this here. If I go to my factory IO and I go to my configurations, right now I'm using ID 100, which is a real value. And we've seen that on a number of places, like where I use that equal instruction for the indicator lights, that this value has way too many decimal places. It's a real value. So that's causing me issues and kind of complicating my program. So if I go to configuration, I can change the numerical data type. So I can change this to a word value, and watch what happens when I change it to a word value. Okay, if I go back to my configuration now, you can see that this is now an integer value, IW100 and IW102. And here for my tank fill valve, I have QW100 and QW102. Maybe my program would work a lot better if I just used the integer values rather than the real values. So for some, that totally just maddens people because you've gotten to like the 5th video and you're like, he's been using the wrong instruction the entire time. Well, I'm making it work, but maybe there's a better way to do it. Maybe I should have changed each of these guys to an integer value, and then when using an equals expression, then I would actually be able to have them equal, right? Rather than having a real value and trying to match up a value that should be an integer to a real value. So you may want to copy what I've done, make it work, and then go back and then change your values to integer values, and then change all of your instructions here. So ID would then change to IW, right? Instead of being 104, it's then 100. So you can switch up the program and see whether it works better. Okay, for some that really frustrates you, I'm sorry, but in the videos I show you like the beginning portions, right? Like building up the program, but I don't show you exactly how to create the program. It's up to you to work through and use what you've learned from this video to try and create your own program and make it work for you. So I'm going to go back to using a double word for now. Okay, so you'll see that what happens is that anytime that I hit any of those push buttons, I open up the valve fully, And then I send a value of like 9.9 here to my MD100. And then I have a comparator value, and I get that again from here. If I open up my basic instructions and I go down to comparator, I'm not using an equal value. I'm using a greater than or equal than. Okay. And I'm saying that when my fill level, which is my MD100, is equal to my tank level sensor, then turn off the valve and send a value of 0 to that proportional valve. Okay, so initially I'm hitting, as long as I'm in the autofill mode and I hit that 100% push button, then it will send a value of 10 to my proportional valve, which opens it right up, which starts filling the tank. As soon as I get to, and it also sends a value of 9.9, and that 9.9 then sits right here. And as soon as my tank level sensor gets to 9.9, then these two would be equal, and then that sends a value of 0 to my proportional valve, which closes the valve. The reason why I set it at 9.9 rather than 10 was that you'll see in the animation, as soon as it hits 9.9, there's still a little bit of water that comes from the valve. So that allows it to actually get to the level that I'm looking for. Okay, so let's close this up here. Okay, let's bring up our factory I/O. And let's see how this works. Actually, let's put this into monitoring mode. Okay, so let's go up to the top of this instruction here. Okay, and I'm now, I've already put it into the auto selector switch here. Okay, let me just reconfigure the tank here. So I need to hit my reset button. I need to put it into the system run. I need to put it into auto mode. Then in order for this instruction to be true, I have to hit the fill push button. Right on, now that's good. And now you'll see when I hit the 25% push button, then my fill valve will go to 10 volts, right? So I'll open it right up, okay? And you'll see that this 2.2 will then, I'll scroll down, you'll see that that value goes down to my MD100. Okay, so we're gonna hit that 25% push button right now. Okay, so you can see that that value of 10 now goes to my fill valve. That value of 2.2 has now been moved down to here. And as soon as it's greater than or equal to, and again, the reason why I had to use greater than or equal to is because I'm using that real value, right? So if I just said when it's equal to, they would never be equal because this has too many decimal places. It would never be equal to 2.2. So that 2.2, if I scroll down here, got moved to my fill level. And as long as I am equal to or greater than that value, then I'm moving a value of 0 to my fill valve, closing that fill valve, and hopefully stopping at the 25% level. And it looks like I am. I'm at 2.50951. So if we zoom in here, we can see that I'm at 75 in the tank, which is my 25% fill, and my indicator light is showing that I'm at that exact level. Okay, so hopefully this is making sense to you. If we go to our 50%, then again I'm going to send a value of 10 to the fill valve, which opens it right up, which starts to fill the tank. I'm going to move a value of 4.7 down below to my MD100. And as soon as I am equal to or greater than 4.7, it will then shut off that fill valve. And then a little bit later, like that, whatever the water is from here to here, right, drops into the tank and brings me to my 50% level. Okay, so I'm going to hit the 50% push button right here, which will then turn on my fill valve and send this 4.7 below. Okay, we'll do that now. Okay, so now we're filling the tank. We're sending a value of 10 to the fill valve. And if I go down, we can see that that 4.7 has now been moved down here. Okay, and if we look at, we're just above that 150 again. So it may be that I just need to change that value again, right? So it looks like on either one, I'm just a bit above where I was looking for. So I'm going to have to work on each of these values here in order so it comes in and stops at that level there. So again, at this point, at 4.7, right? That was coming in a little bit too early. So, but here, let's see. Let's go back to the animation. It could just be the animation here. If I again drain it out a bit, put it into auto mode, put it into fill, and then go to my 50% again. Let's see whether it stops at the appropriate level. There we go. Okay, so it's kind of hit or miss with the animation, right? I hit that 50% before, and for some reason it went just above the 150. But now we can see that we are exactly at our 50% at 150, and the appropriate indicator light has turned on. Okay, let's try the 75%. Hopefully it will stop exactly at 75, which is 225 in the tank. At the 75, I'm now opening up the fill valve. I'm now sending a value of 7.2 below to my MD100. Beautiful, and it should be sitting right at 225, which it is. Beauty, and again, I sent that 7.2 below to this guy right here, right? And as long as it is equal or greater than 7.2, then we'll send a value of 0 to the fill valve. All right, last one. Let's do the 100% now. So for the 100% push button, I'm opening up the valve again and sending a value of 9.9 to here. I'm just not in the monitoring mode. That's why you can't see those values. Okay, so again, when I hit that 100% push button, this 9.9 will be moved to here. Okay, we'll see that now. There we go. So there's that 9.9. It'll go up to the 9.9, then just shut off the valve. A little bit of water will come in and then bring us up to 100% or 300 in the tank. Sweet. And then we have that indicator light to show where we are. Okay, so now that worked for bringing the level up to our 100% now. But now we're going to go into the drain mode. And in using the drain mode, we're going to kind of use the exact same instructions, but we'll have to send different values for our fill level here, right? So let me go back to my TA portal and I'll show you how to do the draining in the auto mode now. Okay, so in order to create my auto drain settings, I have copied and pasted the previous autofill settings and dropped her in. I've changed my my auto mode here to auto drain, so %M0.6. And I've now changed my push buttons, okay, because I'm already at the 100%, so I don't need to have a push button in the draining to get to 100%. So I've changed my push button to 0, 25, 50, and 75. Okay, in hitting each of these push buttons, it's then sending a value of 10 volts to my other valve, my drain valve, %QD104. And I'm sending various values down here to my fill level. So if I want to be at 75%, again, I'm coming from the top, so I need a value that's greater than 7.5. So I've used 7.575. That value will go here to my fill level. And I've changed this value here. So again, if you click on this guy, I have then clicked on this little triangle here on the top here, and I've brought it to, instead of greater than, to less than or equal to. Okay, so you'll see here that I'm at 100%. I'm going to now change to my drain, right? So I'm going to go into drain mode, and you'll see that this guy comes in. Beautiful, and that light turns on. Okay, then I'm going to hit the 75% push button. When I hit that 75% push button, it will send a value of 7.575 down here to my fill level. Okay, when these guys are less than or equal to, my tank level sensor is less than or equal to that value, then it's going to send a value of 0 to the drain valve, which will shut it. Okay, so we'll do that now. We'll go to 75%. So now you can see that my drain valve is now fully open here. I've now sent that value of 7.575 to here. Beautiful, and hopefully we will settle out at 75%. 75% was 225 in the tank. Let's just zoom in and see where we are. Yeah, looks good, eh? 225 in the tank. Beautiful. Okay, let's hit our 50% now, and hitting the 50%, it will fully open my drain valve and then send a value of 5.075 down to this value right here. Okay, so I'm hitting my 50% right now. Okay, you can see that my drain valve has opened fully with a 10 volts there, and there's that 5.075, and hopefully we'll settle out at the 50% or 150 in the tank. Beautiful. Okay, so we're at 50%. Right, indicator light is on, and we should be at 150 in the tank here. So we've had to change the values there because we're coming from the top now, right? So we have to have it just above 2.5, and then it stops. I'm draining out, so I don't have to worry about that water that was coming from that valve above, right? So when I was increasing level in the tank, I had to account for any water that was from the valve to the top of the water here that would then drop in and settle up and bring my level up a touch. Okay, let's go to the 25% now. 25%, again, will open up my valve and send a value of 2.55 down to my fill level. Okay, so we're going down to 75. Should stop at 75 and keep that indicator light on. Beautiful. Okay, so again, that light chatters on and off because the rippling on the top of the tank there that we've seen on previous videos, and we are basically at 75 in the tank. Sweet. Last thing is the 0%, and for that guy, I'm again opening up my drain valve, and when I get to 0.0575, then I'm going to shut off the drain valve and stop at 0%. Okay, so last one here. Excellent. Now I'm totally empty, and then my final indicator light turns on, or should turn on. So looks like I've just have this value maybe a little bit too high, right? So if I go to, let's see, what was my previous value? And my drain valve I had just 0.05. Okay, so let's do that. Let's download it and see whether that changes, because I'm just above where my indicator light is actually going to turn on. Okay, so let's try that again. We'll hit the 0%, hopefully it'll drain out just a touch more. There we go. And there's my indicator light. So you'll have to fool around with these numbers here in order to get it to fill and drain to those exact levels. Alright guys, so we've got a lot done in this video series. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. So far we have created a program where we've got a stop and start that does a system run. We've made use of the reset push button. We've made use of an auto manual switch here to go into auto and manual mode. In the manual mode, we were able to fill and drain the tank using our fill and drain push buttons. In the auto mode, we were then able to create two different modes, a fill mode and a drain mode. We had indicator lights that then came in at different levels in our manual mode. And now in our auto mode, in filling the tank, we can now press these push buttons and bring them up to the appropriate levels where they stop exactly at the 25, 50, 75%, or 100. Then we can go into the drain and drain it out to 75, 50, 25%, and 0% as well. There are some things that are missing in this program though. For one, in this portion on my auto mode, I haven't made use of the e-stop. So if I go to 25% on my fill here, and start filling the tank, and then hit the e-stop, then it just keeps filling. So you can see that this program is not mint yet. There's a number of things that you may want to look at. One would be, instead of using real values, like I have, maybe you use integer values. Then it takes away some of the complications in the program. The other thing is that the e-stop is not working on all of my different settings here. Maybe you don't like the fact that none of the indicator lights are on. They're only on at the specific levels. So you can change that. You don't like the fact that I have created different OBs for each of my different modes, right? So for my manual and my auto, I've just created an OB rather than using subroutines. So you can change that and reconfigure your program as well. So this is just a base program here where I've demonstrated primarily the move function, but you're using this program and now learning from it, maybe creating the exact same program, seeing the exact same issues that I've had all the way along, and then reconfiguring the program so that it works a lot better. All right, guys. So thanks very much for your patience on our journey through this tank project. Hopefully you've learned something about each of the different instructions that were incorporated into this project. And if you have, leave us a like, subscribe to see our next videos coming up, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you soon.